So that, not Fear and Loathing. But I am fairly sure it'll serve as a pretty good analog to the crux of the climb, or at least for the first third of it anyway. How long's it been? 4 years since I started this series called Learning the Crack Climb, which was me learning how to do it. And cracks, they come in all different flavors, and generally you encounter different types on even the same climb. I mean, you can either climbing a crack in a corner, on a face, and we sort of categorize them as either being finger cracks, hand cracks, chimneys, and what hasn't really been featured on this channel is off-widths. So, I believe if you go to Gunk Climber's channel, this is going back, maybe 10 years. There is a video of me doing an off-width 5.9. It was pitch 5 or 6 of vertigo. I don't quite recall. And that was from his perspective, belaying me as I was going up this climb. So you can't really see much other than me. You know, you can hear me huffing and puffing, but you don't see too much. So the point is I don't have a whole lot of experience, or practically any, filming off-widths. And as I just discovered climbing Fear and Loathing, I had some things to learn about filming them, let alone just climbing off-widths. So, point of this video. This is Plumber's Crack, and this is actually the south side of Plumber's Crack. What's popular is the north side. That's where all the photos are and everything else. Yeah, the first third of this thing, it's pretty much the same type of climbing as Fear and Loathing, the crux of Fear and Loathing. Crack's about the same width. It's slightly offset, which I will discuss in a second here. And the only real difference is that Fear and Loathing constricts as you get in. This is pretty much parallel. Doesn't really matter. It actually, the same techniques are employed. I can jam in the back of Fear and Loathing, but it's not really, that's not what I'm using to actually ascend the climb. So yeah, this right now with the phone, this is an opportunity for you to actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to try to describe this because the footage, it's a bit confusing. It just kind of looks a little rough, and in part because, well, I didn't know how to film it. So this is, believe it or not, the 4th time I've filmed myself doing this, because I've been trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Not just with the climbing, but even just how it looks. Wearing the orange hoodie because this prevent myself from getting too beat up here. I'll tell you what, my headband, seen better days. All right, so part of the filming process, by the way, was, turns out I really need this thing angled like down. Now, the other part is I've got to remember to look down and actually show you what I'm doing with my feet, because that's not very clear. So yeah, this guy. Since the crack is offset, and since this, the corner is very, not sharp, but it's very defined, doesn't slope away, and on this side especially, it's acute. You can lay this back. I mean, that is a absolutely valid technique. Some people get all sorts of bent out of shape when people lay back cracks. But I will say, look, valid technique, if that's the way you want to do it, that's nothing wrong with it. But keep in mind that if you're placing gear, you can't see what you're placing. That looks awesome. And if you get pumped out pretty quick, might not be the best technique to employ. I mean, it is a jug all the way up. It's just sideways and you're pushing against it. So honestly, having done this both different ways, can say I think right now laying it back probably is easiest, but I kind of prefer to off with it. So let's get into it. What defines an off with? I can't jam. And I can't get my body in here. That's an off with. You know, I mean, if I go like this, obviously, you know, that's not going to do too much. I can probably, let's see. Yep. Butterfly stack it. Well, butterfly would be like that, but even that's actually pretty, that might be on the extent of what I could probably pull off. So, but fortunately for me, I got legs. It made jam pretty nice. And starting this thing off, what I'm going to do, by the way, I'm going to keep my back against the side that's slightly protruding. I just find it a little easier that way. And my left shoulder facing that, I'm going to jam into the crack. It's really all about getting your hips in there. My left foot here is always going to lead my right foot. Left shoulder's in. So I'm going to take my left hand, press it against here. Elbow's going to be back that way. And right hand is going to be right here. And I'm almost going to sort of like think of this as like an elevator door, and I'm trying to open it that way. It also helps, not going to lie, to have big feet, because as I get further up this thing, I mean, right now, down at the bottom here, obviously the crack is about as wide as my foot, where it's a little narrower. So if I torque my leg over, I'm actually camming my foot in there. But as I get higher, eventually my feet are going to kind of start doing like this. I'll try to point it out when I get there. And I'm sort of like camming it along the length of my foot. I forget what that physiological term of that is. Let's get started here. So yeah, hands, everything's positioned as I described. I'm now going to bring my right foot up underneath and just sort of stand up. Now, once I stood up, okay, it's just going to go foot, foot, hands, hands. Maybe hands at the same time if your feet are really good, but left foot up, right foot up. Push up, left foot up, right foot up, push up. And I'm just going to keep repeating this. This is pretty much what I did on Fear and Loathing. Now, the crux came transitioning out of that off with, because on Fear and Loathing it constricted. And that took some work. I don't need to do that on this climb, just because I can just sort of get back into it. Now, crux of this though is this corner like pushes you off and you got to get around it without hurting my junk, which can be a bit tricky. Now, at this point, this might be wide enough now where I can get a chicken wing. So if you see fingers facing down, my elbows against the wall, and if I put weight on this thing, it can take, if I put weight on my arm, it can pretty much take all my body weight. I don't really need to use my feet. Hurts my elbow, but ain't too bad. All right. And I'm pretty close to being able to get all the way in this thing. And now, that's a squeeze chimney, which I have gained far more experience with and gotten a whole lot more comfortable with. I guess I didn't illustrate, like, by the way, I'm totally hands-free. I just sort of turn my hips sideways and I'm just wedged in here. Earlier, I could have done the same thing. It's actually rather nice. You sit there, work with your gear, take your time, take a breather, as I'm doing right now. Yeah, it makes it easy. So we'll continue going up this thing, because why not? And by the way, again, chicken wing. Just sort of set that, shift the body up, bring it up, do it again. It's getting a little wide on this side, so I can just switch it to my right. It's getting a little wide on that side too. And then at some point, yeah, I can just wedge my feet in here, or legs, I mean, between the knees and the heels. No lie, it does kind of beat on the knees after a while. And so, what I'm going to start doing now is bringing my toe in like this. Foot is on the opposite wall. And you just sort of press them, push the legs. Wedge your shoulders between your hands against each opposing wall. Bring the feet up, repeat that. And once you kind of get a feel for it, it becomes very comfortable. It also helps that this widens up, so I have room to move. Nothing to it, man. Nothing to it. I do find the easiest way to get off this thing to go down the chimney. Or maybe it's just more fun. I don't know. I could have shimmied across, but I didn't feel like it. Going down, same as going up. Foot. Bring yourself down. There you go. If you want to get a chimney video, I should just play this back in reverse. Fitness training, man. Fitness training. Nothing to it. So while I'm reverse ascending here, I'd first like to apologize for the audio quality in the video. I'm currently learning a new video editor, and it turns out GoPros don't really make good lavalier microphones. But second, and more importantly, I really wanted to thank everyone that reached out to me via email or social media that offered me support for my sobriety efforts. Specifically, I stopped drinking at the beginning of the year, which really isn't anything new. I tend to sober up in the spring pretty much annually. But far more profound was giving up caffeine a little bit more than a month ago. I think as anyone that has been around me for the past few weeks can attest, this has been a real eye-opening and a positive experience for myself. I could go on pontificating about this, but I only have 50 seconds before the top. So again, thanks to everyone for the continued support, and for all my East Coast peeps, I'm currently back on your side of the country for a bit, so let's get out and get it. Cheers, everyone.